So we've implanted around 20 Rayner EMV lenses to date, and thus far, patients have been quite happy. We've been using the platform for some time and had a great experience with the overall Rayner platform. And it's great to have this new EMV optic, which appears like it's going to give some depth of focus, and so not only distance vision, but bring in some intermediate or near vision. And a lot of that may depend on how we target the eye. We might have one eye targeted for the best possible distance, and we can sort of cheat one eye a little bit better near, and with this optic, maybe extend that focus even more so. And it's early in our experience, so we've implanted, like I said, around 20 lenses, and so far, anecdotally, the patients are quite happy, and we've been impressed with the results to date. Yeah, so obviously each patient we approach differently depending on what their goals are, and we see a number of patients that are interested in less dependence on glasses, and often we're sort of offering a couple different paths. And one path may be a multifocal. We're using a traditional multifocal, but there are a number of patients that aren't happy or excited about the potential side effects that multifocals deliver. And some patients want high quality monofocal vision without the potential side effects that some multifocals may give. And so in those cases, I think the Rayner EMV platform is a great option. And typically how we'd approach that is start with the dominant eye and target for the best possible distance vision, or somewhere between distance and maybe a minus a quarter, something like that. And then we see how the patient's doing with their vision in that dominant eye, see how they like their vision. A lot of times patients say, doc, my vision's great, I want more of the same, and just put the same lens with the same target in the second eye. Or other times patients say, doc, the distance is great, but I would like a little bit more near vision or a little bit more intermediate vision. Can we target slightly different than the first eye? And so in those cases, we may target somewhere between -0.5 and -1 or something like that. It's very similar to an approach what we use for LASIK or corneal refractive surgery that we call blended vision, where it's not traditional monovision where one eye's -2 and another eye's plano. This is more one eye's plano to -0.25, and the other eye somewhere around -1, let's say. And that -1 with an enhanced optic can help deliver a broader range, and nowadays that gives patients most function for their daily activities, things like obviously driving, seeing a computer screen, seeing most menus in a restaurant, or seeing their smartphone. All those things are quite functional with a plano and a -1 with a extended depth of focus optic. We're usually scheduling the second eye somewhere between 1 and 3 weeks, something like that. And a lot of times it may depend on the individual. If they have a larger prescription, we don't want them to have this anisotropia or difference between the eyes for too long. But if they have more similar eyes and they want to sort of experience the first eye to give us a little bit more information on how to target the second eye, we'll sort of extend that second eye date to 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, depending on how they're doing. So, but in general, it's usually somewhere between 1 and 3 weeks. Without a doubt, the EMV is one other tool in the scope of aberrations, and understanding aberrations. I think I like to think of it as there is no perfect lens. And so there are different targets for what you're trying to deliver for the patient. In some regards, in some eyes, you might want to try to end up with an eye that has 0 or minimal aberrations, and try to get the best possible quality of vision for a single focus. And in that case, you might use an aspheric optic that matches or counterbalances the cornea's spherical aberration. In some regards, you may want to leave the cornea's aberration in place, and thus, sacrifice a bit of quality to gain some depth of focus through spherical aberration. And in those lenses, maybe it's a little bit more of a neutral, spherical aberration lens that you're going to use. And then in other cases, you want to add to the aberration or spherical aberration that's inside the eye to further extend the depth of focus. And so I don't know if there's a right or wrong, but there probably are trade-offs depending on quality of vision at a single focus versus depth of focus. And so that's kind of the general way I look at it. But along those lines, there's also things that you can do to analyze an eye to understand what the baseline aberrations are, and is it a post-myopic LASIK eye that has, let's say, positive spherical aberration built in, or is it a post-hyperopic LASIK eye that has negative spherical aberration induced? And are you trying to keep some of that in play, or you're trying to eliminate some of that those aberrations that have been induced from refractive surgery, or you're trying to add to that, and even double down on some of the spherical aberration to further extend the focus. So I think having the Rayner optic with its spherical aberration profile is just one other tool in our toolbox, and one other way to sort of understand and offer something for a patient, depending on what your goals are for that specific patient or eye. In general, I think topography to understand, is there something currently, are they, how to say it, we look at the topography to understand the starting point, and most patients have a relatively normal eye, and so you might be able to choose any lens and achieve the goal that you're looking for. Some eyes are starting with more negative or more positive spherical aberration, and you should keep that in mind, and likely not add to those aberrations, and consider reducing some of those aberrations depending on what's going on with the patient. A lot of patients might say, what, doc, ever since LASIK, the quality of my vision has not been quite as good as it was before LASIK. Granted, I'm seeing without glasses, but I might, the quality has dropped down a little bit. In those cases, you may have an opportunity to help neutralize some of the spherical aberration that's in place. And so choosing the proper optic for those eyes, I think, is important. And you can gather that information by studying the topography. But in general, I'd say most patients are starting from more of a normal situation. And thus, in those normal situations, I think, you might, a lot of it depends on sort of what the patient's goals are. We don't go deep into discussing spherical aberration, because I think that can be confusing with the patient, but more or less discussing the concept of trading some quality for depth of focus. And I think that goes well into the conversations of, let's say, monovision patients. A lot of patients have been using contact lenses where one eye is distance and one eye is set for near, and they understand that there is a trade-off when you're approaching, that type of goal. And so if a patient's inclined to go down that path, using an optic that can sort of allow you to achieve that trade-off with a little bit less sort of difference between the eyes as far as sphere. So if you can use spherical aberration to kind of stretch that depth of focus in those eyes, I think the Rayner platform is a perfect tool to use for that approach. Yeah, I think right now, subjectively, I think patients have been happy. Patients are appreciating the high quality vision they're getting. I don't have any patients reporting any sort of side effects that you might see with a multifocal lens. So I feel confident it can be used in a particular sort of patient that has high expectations as far as visual quality. So it's delivering on that aspect. And as far as delivering more than just distance vision. Anecdotally, I have seen a number of patients that are doing well in that regard and functioning without glasses for distance and near. But I think my experience is early. And so I'd like to sort of gather data and have a little bit more scientific results as far as what type of distant, intermediate, and near vision these patients are truly getting. So far so good, but I guess we're early in our experience. The platform itself, it's a preloaded IOL that's very easy to use. I use Aura intraoperative aberrometry to help pick the sphere power of the lens, and having a preloaded lens when using intraoperative aberrometry makes flow very efficient. When I call it the lens, it's opened and ready to use and ready to be inserted quickly. It's efficient. It's a very robust platform. Like I mentioned, I've used it in their previous generation lenses with the Rayner 970 optic, which is an aspheric optic, and we've had great results with the Rayner platform in general. I've used it in thousands of eyes, and the clarity of the IOL is very good. The stability, the short-term and long-term stability of the optic within inside the bag is great. So overall, I can definitely speak to years of use with the Rayner platform, and the just the overall quality and patient satisfaction that we've had over the years has been fantastic. And so now it's great to have the Rayner EMV new optic profile available on the already sort of tried and true platform that Rayner's offered to us in the past.